when Nike was having its issues with child labor. The university had a position to take, which was, do we cancel the contract with Nike, or in our particular case, do we dispense the proper folks to go find out exactly what's going on? If you remember back when, it was a serious situation where Rutgers, Penn State, a lot of the major institutions were faced with this contractual dilemma. And what we decided to do was spend the time to get ourselves embedded into why these issues were happening with Nike, work with the State Department, dispatch some of our contracting folks through multiple university systems, and spent the time to try to get that situation turned around. Now, if you look at Nike today, they're all about the promotion of corporate social responsibility and the materials and such. So that was a clear example that you have to get yourself embedded and involved in these processes through a contract. So obviously we could have just canceled the contract and said we're just going to move on, but it was important for us to get in and find out exactly what was going on and right the wrong.
I think I was thinking through what a good example would be for Covanta, and it struck me almost immediately. Something we talk about every day at our work. Virtually every meeting that we have, we talk about safety. We operate, big power plants, pressurized equipment, a lot of traffic considerations that are going on. So we've been working on a higher level safety awareness environment for a number of years, and I think with exceptionally good results. How do we translate that into folks, into the supply chain, as Kevin talked about, is we very much now are going through our contractor, subcontractor relationships and looking at, hey, how focused are they on having their employees when they go to work in the same condition when they go home? And that becomes a big part of our decision-making process about how we spend our money on our supply chain and on the people that we're working with. And the company spends hundreds of millions of dollars on subcontractors, construction companies, and those questions are pretty much, I think, while I'm not in those meetings, those questions I know are first and foremost on the sheet of paper when we're looking at, okay, qualifications, great price, terrible safety record. Okay, that doesn't work for us. Higher price, great safety record, let's go down this pathway. So
it's a great example. I'm going to try and keep this story short, but it's similar in vein. I think it's interesting when you see companies go through some trying times and get put in a tough position and see how they react. I think you really get to see what they're made of and whether they really stand behind what they say. And we had a situation, we work in many places around the world, some of them some tough environments. We had a contract in Libya helping Libya start to invest in their infrastructure. They didn't have any significant investment outside of the oil industry in Libya for the people of Libya in over 40 years. And we were working for their housing and infrastructure board, creating roads and housing and mosques, schools, and water and wastewater treatment, et cetera. And our full staffing plan had over 1,000 people in Libya. And when the unrest in Libya leading up to the revolution started, we had pulled back on many folks, but we still had over 150 folks in Libya. And things unraveled very quickly, and we couldn't get those people out. And we went into Libya with our eyes wide open. We were prepared. We had security plans, we had evacuation plans, we had a full-time security manager on site, we had redundant communications, we had all the things from a due diligence perspective you would expect. And we still found ourselves in a position where we had 10 people in Benghazi, for instance, on the floor of their building as it was hit by gunfire, and we were unsure of how we were going to get them out. We had another 140 or so in Tripoli. We had brought everybody together across the country into Tripoli, and all of our exits from the country had been cut off. And what I saw our leadership go through, and what they put first was the employees to the nth degree, sparing no cost, sparing no resource, putting themselves, all of their time, their personal energy, and thought, accompany all of our subcontractors and every contact we had to try and get those folks out. And again, I think it's that trial by fire, if you will, when you see what a company really does when their back's against the wall and how they act and react and look after their employees. To me, it was a great example, and that was one. Where Alan's going. That was one where I saw how the company reacted, and in this case, in such a positive way. But it would have been very easy because of the challenges, not to go to that degree, to do everything possible within our control to try and get them out. Fortunately, we're fortunate to get everybody out safely, and it's a very interesting, long story I won't tell today, but we were able to get everybody out.
I struggle, I guess, with which story to tell you. Because, given the nature of our industry and where we operate, I get calls all the time from country managers and colleagues in the field asking for help with a lot of these issues. And fortunately, our group works very, very closely with both enterprise risk and the chief compliance officer, because we try to reinforce each other's efforts to train and support our assets in some very difficult issues. So, there was one, for example, I got a call about a year ago from one of our country managers, and it was so wonderful to hear that he knew the answer was no. Well, what he was looking for, he said, I know the answer is no, because you've come and you've talked to us about various things, and just don't know how to put it in words. And it was around the fact that in this particular country, a contractor wanted to hire refugee labor. And I said, okay. I said, and why would the contractor want to do that? To which he replied, well, the locals are not comfortable, they don't like the wage, it's really low, and the working conditions are awful. I said, okay, well, stop right there. And I explained to him why that was, he knew it was unacceptable, but he needed language for the contractor. And I said, well, just show them their contract where they signed our human rights language, and which references the ILO fundamental principles. So, they're violating their contract. And then I went through with him and said, well, do you think your Ministry of the Interior would allow refugees to work? Because in most countries, they don't. They're guests in the country, and they're not allowed to work. In any event, we spent about a half hour on the phone ironing out a response, and it worked out. And I think we do that every day. For us, it's not just the one-off stuff, right? How do you systematize that kind of engagement? And so what we've been doing now, working with value assurance, risk, and compliance, is taking a look at kind of whatever biggest buckets in CSR that touch ethics and sustainability. And for us, it's really stakeholder engagement. For an oil company to get access to resources and assets, that's all mediated by stakeholders, right? It's either a government, a regulator, a landowner in the case of the US that has mineral rights, or a national oil company. And if we don't manage those relationships well, we can't manage our risks well, and we're not going to be effective in business, either sustainable or profitable. And so one of the things we've tried to do this year, and I'm very excited at this integration project, is we are now integrating stakeholder identification and management and engagement into processes that our assets already have to do, around enterprise risk workshops, around value assurance work streams, so that it's not just one more thing that those people in sustainability tell me I have to do, but it's really to see the value of integrating that into their business strategy and their operations. So hopefully, if you're down the road and we're further along, I'll be able to report out on how well that works. But it's an interesting model of collaboration among corporate groups that touch the space and the assets.
Great. Thank you.